Hi, this is TK with Movie Widow Media. And today I'm going to talk to you about the latest offering from a little known director out of Argentina by the name of Demian Rugna. Demian first got on my radar from a film that I saw on Shudder a couple years ago called Terrified. You might see it by its Spanish titled version, Eterados, and it premiered on Shudder a few years ago. I think I checked it out through the pandemic, during the pandemic. So I will say this about Damien and other Spanish directors, Spanish horror directors specifically. We seem to be sleeping on Spanish horror directors because they really bring it with the scares. I wasn't going to do a review on this movie. It's going to premiere. It was released. It was an entry into the Toronto International Film Festival this year, and it actually is going to premiere on Shudder. I believe on the 27th of this month, and it was released by IFC Films. But I decided to go and check it out at the theater just because it seemed to be something new and interesting. It seemed to change up the horror game a little bit. And when you've seen as many horror films as I have, as you can imagine, things start looking the same often, and you get disappointed a lot, get your hopes up, get them dashed when you actually see the final product. It's a sleeper hit, especially coming up on the heels of the disappointing reboot of the recent reboot of The Exorcist Believer. That had a terrible box office, very disappointing. I think it's only grossed like $30 million so far, and it just wasn't a really good installment into the whole Exorcist franchise. But this movie, When Evil Lurks, is an exception, and you're probably going to be hearing do the review. But I've been seeing a lot of people reviewing the film, so I just thought I'd add my 2 cents. The movie's in subtitles, so if you're not a big fan of international films, and if you don't like reading subtitles, then perhaps miss this one. I don't know, but if you're a true horror fan, you probably don't want to do that. But the film the film centers around two brothers, Pedro and Jimmy. Pedro and Jimmy are sharecroppers, farmers, whatever they're called now, on in this remote village in Argentina on some farmland. They hear shotguns, or they hear gunshots in the night, and they wait until morning to investigate. And when they go out to the on their land to see what's up, they come across this body that's been badly mutilated, very precise but badly mutilated. Eventually, it leads them to one of their neighbors. I guess she has property on the adjacent land, and it turns out that the person that they found in the field was an exorcist who they refer to in this world as the cleaner, or a cleaner. A cleaner is a person that, again, in this world, where they treat possession almost like a pandemic. It's almost kind of like a disease that eats you from the inside out and rots you. As a matter of fact, the afflicted are actually the people that are actually possessed are referred to as the rotten in this film, in this universe. And you have to go through the government to get exercised or cleaned. So Jimmy and Pedro happen up on the farm. They find some documents on the body that they find, the mutilated body that they find. It leads them to a neighbor. The neighbor explains that her son has actually been possessed. He's been possessed for over a year. And the person that they found on the land was more than likely the cleaner or the exorcist that they contacted the government over a year ago to come in and exorcise the possessed person, which happens to be the neighbor's son. You find out through the events of the film that, again, possession is being treated like a disease, like a pandemic. The government's aware of it. There is even protocol on how to deal with the infected or with the rotten. There's 7 rules. I don't want to give too much away, but there's 7 rules that are established kind of midway through the film that deals with how to avoid being possessed. One of them is to not use firearms. So as you can imagine, if you happen upon something as they see, in this case with the son, one of the things that happens is it starts eating you up, rotting you from the inside out. And the person that they encounter, the possessed, the rotten, is this bloated, pussy corpse. It's if you have a weak stomach, I wouldn't eat while I'm watching this film, because it's a sight to see. It's smelly, but you cannot. One of the 7 rules that the film establishes, and I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so I don't want to give too much away, is that you can't use firearms to dispose of the possessed person. Otherwise, it's going to spread. The characters in this film make a series of just really bad decisions, selfish decisions. I think there's wider themes in this film about how, much like we did with the recent health pandemic that we had about 3 years ago, people selfishly don't do what they're supposed to do to avoid spreading the contagion. And in this universe that this film set in, again, it's something that's aware of. They have protocol for it. And there's ways to just keep it away from you. But obviously, somebody didn't follow the rules, and they ended up with this possessed person in their village. This movie has a lot of scares. The thing about Demian, or Rugna, I think that's easier for me to pronounce. The thing about Rugna is, again, I saw, first of all, his filmography. So he is mainly known for a film called Terrified that was, I believe, released or shown on Shudder. I'm not sure who put it out, but it was a Shudder film, and that's how he got on my radar. Terrified has some sequences in that movie that will stick with you probably to your very last breath. If you're a horror fan, you'll appreciate that. But this type of horror isn't for everybody. I happen to like my horror to be a little wicked. Admittedly, the more wicked, the better. I like the kind of horror that you feel like you have to cross yourself and douse yourself with holy water to get the stink off of you when you're done. I happen to like that showdown between good and evil. That's part of the appeal for horror movies for me. Rugna treats entities in his world in Terrified, and again in this his latest film, When Evil Lurks, almost as just like ordinary, everyday. It's very disturbing. So I digress like I always do. But if you are one that does not want to see harm come to children or animals, you might want to stay away from his films, because this particular movie has both. There's one specific scene where there's kind of a misdirection going on, because your attention is on some dramatic events that's happening in the background, till you're kind of taking your eyes off the ball, and then something very shocking happens between a child and an animal. So they kind of get you with that double whammy there. That's just very, very hard for some people to take. As a matter of fact, I was only in the theater with 2 other people, and I believe that the person that was sitting on my aisle actually left the theater after that scene. It's not for everybody. So When Evil Lurks, I think, is a great alternative if you're looking for just some very, very disturbing horror, and you're looking for something better than The Exorcist, or even better than a lot of the bigger, more blockbuster type um, films that's out there today, specifically during spooky season. Just check it out.